Hello. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Andrew Steed, and I have been working as a shamanic teacher since I went self-employed in 1996. What a journey it has been. And I'm here today to talk to you about the multi-dimensional impact of medicine known as Amrun, which is indigenous to these isles. It's the roots of my ancestors. And so, what is Amrun and how do we work it? Well, let me take you back to when I began weaving with Amrun. I was a kid and I had no idea there and then that it was a medicine way. It was something I did out on my own. I'd go into the woods and a song, a dance would come through me. And it was a language that certainly didn't understand it from an English perspective, but it was a language and it made me feel really good. But it wasn't something that I shared with others. It was a private practice. And I continued working it through my life, not realizing that I was building strong muscle with Amrun. It was actually when I was reading the Second Battle of Moytura, an Irish text written down by the 6th century monks, that I came across a passage with the word Amrun written down. And that excited me because when I read it, I knew exactly what it was. You see, pre the battle between the Tuatha De Danann and the Fomorians, Lu, who was acting as the king at that time, along with the Dagda, who is a fertility god and who carries the harp Uenya, though in some stories the harp becomes the harper Uenya. But this harp, when you play it, it plucks the strands of poetry. It transmutes sorrow into authentic joy and into peace. So up on this hill climbs the king with the harp of the Dagda and three other men. It is the healer, the poet, and the smith. Now, what it doesn't tell you is that there's two women up on the mound with them, and yet it does tell you that. Huh? How? Explain. Well, it only names the five men. But you see, the number five in the indigenous weavings of this land is the number of sovereignty. And sovereignty is none other than the goddess. And at that time, who was the sovereignty goddess of the Tuatha De Danann? The Morrigan. So we now know the Morrigan was up there. But there was also another woman. And who might that be? Well, the clue is in the smith, the poet, and the healer. You see, if you know your Celtic medicine, then you'll realize that the goddess of healing, poetry, and smithcraft is none other than Bridget. So there were seven of them up on this mound for a year and a day weaving with Amrun. My goodness. You know, when I went to Jamaica in 2019, Spirit told me I was to light a fire, a 13-hour fire, and weave with Amrun through the night. And I was like, that's not happening because the people who are coming with me won't be able to hold it for 13 hours. And Spirit said they don't have to. You do. And so I went to Jamaica to light a 13-hour Amrun fire. And that's when I learned that this medicine is multi-dimensional. You see, what had come through as a boy, this song, this movement, that I'd learnt was a medicine way, and I'd been weaving with it for so many years, it was time to bring people to work with Amrun so that we can charge up the dragon lines, that we can transmute the sorrows and place that authentic joy and that peace in those lines into the energy grid of the earth and start creating the balance. Because every year since I can remember, the darkest dark has risen higher. And so the lightest light rises to meet it and then go above it. And in 2019, I was shown clearly that Amrun is a multidimensional medicine way that can lead us into the evolution of the worlds. You see, my good friend Mike Fenster, who's a heart surgeon, who with his wife was coming to Jamaica to be part of that 2019 retreat, got in touch with me and said, Andrew, how about I rent a yacht and you and your partner Joyce and me and Jen, the four of us will go out onto the Caribbean Sea. It was going to be February the 14th, Valentine's Day. Well, I was excited to go out onto the Caribbean Sea, not because I wanted to be on a boat on the water, because that doesn't work for me so well. I tend to get seasick at the slightest swell. However, if there is something of importance for me to be on that boat in a spiritual sense, I'm there. And there was. You see, this was going to be my third retreat. I've now led five in Jamaica, but this was the third one. And what I intended from this voyage was to allow the ancestors to see through my eyes as they came into port. You imagine that slaves taken from Africa, people in servitude taken from these isles, from Scotland, from Cornwall, from Ireland, from Wales, troublemakers, people gathered together and shipped across. Well, you only got to take a look at my skin. I'm lily white. And put me out under the Caribbean sun for a long time. I'm not going to do very well. And so I wanted these people, along with those working on the ships, those who were sailing those ships, because some of those people get stuck, haven't crossed over. Why? Guilt. And there's many reasons why souls get stuck. But I wanted to share with those that had come in to port in harsh times, a way to see through my eyes. And it was beautiful. It really was. It was such a calm day. And if you've ever been to Iona, uh, the sea there is very much like the Caribbean, except you don't get the weather. It's beautiful colors. And we were out on that Caribbean Sea, and it was like, oh, this is just delicious. And I got to snorkel for the first time. Wow. Just seeing the colors and a world underneath the ocean. It was beautiful. And I really felt as we came back to port that we'd done something important. And the captain anchored us off the dock and made lunch. And he was playing some music, and on came Bob Marley singing Redemption Song. Now, I was fortunate enough to see Bob Marley in one of his last ever concerts before he died, an open air gig in Crystal Palace. And he played Redemption Song as part of his encore, a song that's very precious to me. So there I'm skanking, there's the captain skanking all around the boat, having the best time. And then it was time to up anchor, and we were sailing around the island, and we were going to have dinner on a beach somewhere. Well, we never got there. You see, what I hadn't taken into account is that if I wanted the ancestors to see through my eyes, then they were going to want me to see through theirs. And a spiritual, significant event happened in that Jamaica disappeared. We were just in thick mist. And that beautiful turquoise blue and green sea turned black and ugly. We started to race through the waters and we started to tip. And when you have tipped and you're literally hanging on for dear life, thinking, my goodness, people do this for fun. And you're realizing we are so close to tipping point. And there was that realization that the boat was going down. And then the crap hit the fan. One of the lines to the sail snapped. And now that's flying around everywhere. And I called him the bosun. There were two crew, the captain and the bosun. So the bosun jumps there and he's dancing on the deck because we are just being thrown everywhere. And he's desperately trying to catch ropes, which are flying. And if they'd have caught round his leg and he'd have been thrown overboard, that would have been the end of him. And not only did the line snap, we lost the satellite equipment. It just flew off the mast into the sea. And now there's no guidance. We've got no sail. And we are just being hammered. And we are on the verge of tipping over and going down. And the only thing I knew to do, and it wasn't conscious, Spirit lifted me up. I stood up and I started working Amrun, the song that sings through me. It's the universal song of spirit. And I started moving and weaving, and I was wrapping Amrun all around the boat. My friend Pat, who took the place of my partner Joyce because she didn't fly with me to Jamaica. So my good friend Pat, who I think she's now 81, 82, but she stood beside me. She's worked with me for many, many years. And she worked Amrun, the two of us, holding the space of the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine. As the two crew members desperately tried to fix the sail, and the captain, well, he he'd got a fish hook and he was desperately trying to get hold of the satellite equipment because he knew if he got back to port and the Caucasian woman who owned the boat found that he'd lost this expensive piece of equipment, he'd be in big trouble. Mike was desperately trying to help the bosun grab the rope and fix things, and Jen had gone down to see if she could make any communication and let people know that we were in trouble. Pat said to me afterwards that she went way down to the bottom of the sea, the place where it was very, very tranquil, and she worked with that energy. But I was still winding things around the boat, protecting because it was protecting the bosun who was hopping around and not going overboard. And then I looked at the captain because he was no longer at the wheel. Nobody was at the wheel. No, let me change that. Spirit was at the wheel. And the captain was hanging over the edge of the boat with the fishhook that he'd managed to hook into the satellite equipment, and he pulled it back towards the boat. And I saw all that was going to happen next in slow motion. I saw it before it happened. I saw him throw the fishhook back up onto the boat. I saw him grab hold of this heavy piece of equipment, which was made heavier because it was in the drag of the water. And I realized that he didn't have enough leverage to get it up and over. And so what he intended to do was pull himself in, let go, grab up higher, and swing that satellite aboard. So there was going to be a moment when he had no hands on the boat and he's holding a heavy piece of equipment and it's being dragged in the water. That means he's going to fall in. So I am wrapping him tight in Amrun. And then what's he do? He lets go, grabs up higher, and he flings that satellite and it lands on the boat and he climbs back in. Now, with the satellite on board and with the bosun finally grabbing hold of the rope, suddenly everything shifted. The mist disappeared. The Black Sea calmed, and we literally came into sunshine turquoise, green, and blue seas. The captain was back at the wheel and he was shaking. He knew, as we all knew, that the boat ought to have gone down. However, it was a spirit journey. Now, my partner Joyce, who wasn't able to make it to Jamaica, is the most empathic person I've ever met. And I knew that she would know that something had happened. So I grabbed my iPhone and I went to send her a message. However, when I pressed the button to turn it on, there was already a message set up, ready to go to Joyce. And it had two emojis on, two emojis I had never ever used. Now, if you know how emojis work, especially when it comes to humans, you get to choose what skin color you would like, and it goes from the milkiest white to the darkest black and everything in between. So my phone had been pre-programmed by Spirit because they had chosen two emojis that I'd never ever used, and they'd chosen the skin colors. One was a pair of Caucasian praying white hands, and the other was a little black baby's face. And that was the ancestors saying thank you. When we came back to port, we never got dinner. The captain drove us back to our retreat center, and he was very interested in what Pat and I had been doing. And I'm not here saying it was Pat and I that saved us, because it was the unseen ones that came in to support us. But the Song of Amrun called them. What we weaved and what the unseen weaved helped us to get back to port. And as I was speaking to the captain, he admitted something about the boat. He said, you know, the mast on that boat is too big. It's unwieldy. It's dangerous. And a lot of people hearing that might have jumped to, I could sue you for that. But that's not where I went. Where I went was, it's not that the sail was too big. The boat's too small. We need a bigger boat. Now, I'm not talking about just building a bigger boat. So for that one voyage, I was talking symbolically. There's not enough beings right now who can hold the vibration of authentic joy. You see, our planet remembers. The earth holds the stories. And because the patriarchal has created war after war after war, and our so-called leaders lead us in to places of greed, fear, rage. There's an emptiness. The strand of sorrow is what's vibrating big time, energetically, within the folds of the earth and within the folds of the beings on the earth. And so we have a simple task, not an easy one, but a simple one, of rebalancing, shifting the tipping point. If the sorrow, with all of that anger and rage and greed and depression and unforgiveness and all of those aspects that are leading the way, if they're up here right now and authentic joy is down here, when more of us are able to hold that space of authentic joy and build the energy of authentic joy, The day we meet the sorrow and go above it, that's what I believe will create an evolutionary shift. So how do we do that? Well, that's where Amrun comes into play. That's where this song and this movement that is spirit song allows us to transmute those sorrows into the authentic joy and the peace. Now, to do this, we have to know what authentic joy is. However, some of you won't. In my weavings with so many people around the world, I've met people who have worked shamanic practice ways for many moons who just didn't know what authentic joy was. They would go from the sorrow straight to the peace. And I would say nothing wrong with that. What's great is you've acknowledged you don't know what authentic joy is. Well, the gateway to authentic joy is love. And we can work with love until we make a relationship with authentic joy. And if you're willing, it works. If you work it, then it will work you until you are in that place holding authentic joy. And so Amrun is a song. And I don't know what the words are. I don't know what the tune is. You see, if I knew what the words were ahead of time and I knew what the tune was, I'd be here. And that's been our problem. We get stuck in here. And yet this is where everything changes. Right here. It's our heart space. In this heart space are the lines. Our own dragon lines, our meridian lines are in our bodies. And so it's about reattuning our own energetic field. We have to build muscle in the spiritual, the mental, and the physical. And when we build that muscle, what we can do is then we can be far more effective when it comes to planetary healing. We've got to be willing to go into the darker spaces within us, transmute that darkness into light. It's simple. It's just not easy. It means meeting ourselves. It means being willing to be a medicine way. There's no quick fix with this. People now they want to get a drum and sit and go, oh wow, isn't this great? And yeah, it is brilliant that people are waking up. However, a lot of people have woken up and they're sitting in what I call the happy clappy groups where everyone leaves going, oh, that was the greatest. But it was a bit like a roller coaster. They suddenly realize they haven't gone anywhere because it's got no depth. For us to be an evolutionary way means creating deep roots and allowing our wings to get bigger and stronger so we can go deeper and fly higher. And that doesn't come with a certificate. That doesn't come with a weekend workshop. That comes with years of stirring the cauldron. So wherever you are on your journey, welcome. And are you ready to go to the next level? Are you ready to be part of an evolutionary way? Because we need a bigger boat. And you're an important member of that crew if you are willing. If this speaks to your heart, it would be my joy to work with you. You see, I'm a lighthouse in this world. I've been stirring the cauldron for many, many years. I've led over 80 pilgrimages. I started being self-employed in 96, and I've been leading small group pilgrimages in the Isles to Iona and to Arran, to Ireland, both the West Coast and the East Coast, up in Donegal. I've been going to Skye, to the Kingdom of Fife, to Northumberland, to Cornwall and Glastonbury. I've met so many people who have walked with me. And I tell you, one pilgrimage can change someone's life. 80 has totally liberated mine. And so I bring my years of stirring the cauldron, my dedication to spirit, and I'm pleased to offer each of you an opportunity to explore Amrun with me online to build muscle, and then hopefully in person because I like Amrun fires or work Amrun boats uh, in different countries around the world, and certainly here in the British Isles as well. So hopefully I'll get to meet some of you in due course online and then in person. So if I was to sing a piece of Amrun to you, as I say, I don't know what's going to come, but I do know it's important to put an intending to it. So I'm going to sing a piece of love through Amrun from my heart to yours. And today it sounds like this. Eon te kolo kayamana he olana ye tulu he kulo mayante kulamana kelona he shuntelo ne monolante kolontelo Oleo Heyonta He Kulumayante Hulamono Kuyokuntule Oyanama Kule Noma Hulane Kuyalante Hule Oh, maya kulame heyante kulamana heyante sha. A piece of love. Now, if I was weaving with joy, it might sound like this. Hoya kalamakanekulu hayang kontelo kalamakanelo hayantala ekuluko yuma ekuluko yama eontelo kalamana ekuluka yeno huyantala mana helo huyantakaluma hula makalene hekolana heonte He kulama yahante kulenaya. Hoyante kulamana heshanta. Heyante hayama. Shah. Now, if you're sitting here thinking, oh my goodness, it's singing. I don't sing. Hang on a minute. Stop. Whoa. Everyone sings. The challenge in our world is so many people have had their voices shut down. You can't sing. Oh, that sounds horrible. But nature doesn't apologize for its song. A crow never apologizes. The wind doesn't apologize. The sea doesn't apologize. Nature is always singing. And you see, that's part and parcel of who we are. Our song is important. You see, if someone was to say to me, "Oh, you sang a bum note," I'd be like, "Actually, that was spirit, and spirit doesn't sing a bum note. It's what it is." And so, wherever you are with your voice, know that your voice is important and your song is important, and the intendings you place behind it are important. And as we allow ourselves to explore our wild nature, as we allow ourselves to be free and become that hollow bone and allows spirit to come flowing through us, we activate a medicine way, and a medicine way of transmutation, of change that really is evolutionary. You see, in 2019, when I was to light that 13-hour fire and I had the boat experience on the Caribbean Sea, Spirit told me, get ready for war. And I was like, don't like that word, war. We've been stuck in war. And they said, then shift it, flip it. And I was like, oh, yeah. I understood what they were saying. War, W-A-R, became R-A-W, roar. And so I ask you, are you ready to roar? And what does roar stand for? It stands for remembering away, remembering our indigenous roots, remembering away. It stands for reclaiming away, to stand up in the honor, the balance of masculine and feminine, of high queen and high king in each of us, in all beings seen and unseen, in being part and parcel of the oneness of who we are. And it stands for rebirthing away. Because there are things that are ready to die. And it's important that we celebrate death, otherwise death doesn't happen. But it's time for major, major shifts on this planet. And it won't be the politicians that will solve this one, because they've got no interest. They've got their own agendas. It'll be the lay people. It'll be you and me. We are the ones we have been waiting for. And so my hope is that you will be enthused by watching this, by hearing a snippet of what Amrun is, and decide to join me on monthly online Visionary Hope Fires. They'll be running from August 2025 through to the end of this year, and then every month for as long as it needs to be, because we are the people we've been waiting for. It's our time. It is now. And we're able to do this. Look for guides who can hold clear space. I know that that's me, because when that boat was in peril, Spirit grabbed me. All of the work that I've done over the years, honoring the unseen world to honor the seen world, it comes into play now. So you'll be in good hands with good hearts. And my hope is that you'll come again and again. So be in touch. If you've got questions, let me know. When we meet for the Visionary Hope Fires, there will be a teaching, there will be breakout room practice. We'll work with our own internal waters, our earth, our air, our fire, the sovereignty of our hearts. And then we'll come and collectively we'll work a peace, honoring all nations, all beings seen and unseen. I thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to sharing more with you. Shah.